Hello, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the J Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Nowakowski, and today I am joined by a full-time hooper of 2.5 hoopers, Jacob Lehman. Lehman, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Always a pleasure. I like this podcast a lot more than mine. So it's always a lot of fun getting
Dude,
on here.
last night, y'all dropped a pod today. So we're going to talk about the trade deadline. That's what this episode's going to be about. But if you want to get in-depth detail, they went through every single trade. George Martin gets a break from my podcast, and then he decided to drop an F-bomb on your podcast.
And I was too lazy to edit it out, so it's not for children anymore. But hopefully we still get the algorithm. But we'll see.
Oh, it was so good. But yeah, after y'all listen to this, go hop on 2.5 Hoopers and get every in-depth trade. I mean, we're gonna go over most of them, but not everyone. They went over every single one. Alrighty. So yeah, trade deadline was yesterday for the NBA. We had a lot of movement, I think. It was a pretty good amount of movement.
It was a lot better than last year's.
It was
That's
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Definitely a lot better than last year's. But still some surprise moves. But let's just start off and we're gonna get to the trades. But who was your winner of the trade deadline?
So are you gonna have one as well? A winner?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll because I feel like there's two obvious ones. So I'll go with the Nuggets.
Okay.
The Nuggets, in my opinion, they really lowballed for Aaron Gordon. They got him because that whole Magic thing was kind of not a disaster because they had to restart, but I mean they gave up a lot of pieces and didn't get a whole lot back. But getting Aaron Gordon, if he's comfortable being that 4 role, as they got Jokic, Murray, and Porter already ahead of him in the scoring pecking order. I think he'll fit in nice. And also JaVale McGee, I think was the most under the radar move that I liked a lot. Yeah. They got McGee for 2 first-rounders and Isaiah Hartenstein. So, I mean, didn't give up a lot on the court there. And then I just like that they kind of they lost Jeremy Grant in the offseason to the Pistons, got Aaron Gordon, who I think Jeremy Grant's a lot better, but Aaron Gordon has the same potential. And you can slide Millsap to the bench because every time that man shoots a jumper, it looks like his knees are going to buckle. Paul Millsap's awesome, but he's getting up there in age. He's mostly a locker room guy at this point. And then they replaced I think it's Mason Plumlee. Is it Mason or Miles Plumlee? Mason Plumlee, yeah. So he was their backup last year, and he played pretty solid for them, and he also went to the Pistons with Jeremy Grant. So they both got their bags. Now they kind of have guys kind of like that. Plus McGee back in Denver. Some more Shaq in a full moments are bound to happen. So I think Denver's probably my winner at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I thought the McGee trade was definitely under the radar. Your podcast briefly touched on it, but like I really thought that was a really solid move to get him as a backup center. I mean, he's going to give you 15 minutes max, but they're going to be the most efficient 15 minutes you'll ever see from
as long as he brought his inhaler, he's all good. Like he'll give you 15 of run into a wall for you. He'll get some blocks. He's a great locker room
That's
guy,
right.
So.
He's got it. Yeah, and he has to deal with the high altitude. So maybe it'll be more like 11 for him.
That's true. I didn't think 11.
Maybe it'll be like 11, but it's going to be like 11 with like 4.5 with 4 blocks, 3 fouls, 12 rebounds, and like 4 points.
Exactly.
That's going to be JaVale McGee. But no, Denver did a great job. I'll go with the other Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I love too.
I mean, they did an incredible job. They gave up a center they really didn't like at all to get Vooch in. And then they made some solid moves. And then they get Mo Wagner. And then they're like Daniel Tice. Yeah, and then they're like Daniel Tice is better. Get the hell out of here. And then they just get Daniel Tice. And I really like what's going on in Chicago. Like, I know we were all like, well, they kind of suck. And now I'm like, hey, the East is insane. They can be a really good team.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think getting Vooch for what they got him for was very good because they needed an actual center. I hate Wendell Carter Jr. because he's not a real center. He's a power forward with a center skill set. So I really like how they upgraded there.
Yeah.
And then, what's up?
No, you go. You finish.
And I really like they're kind of committing to winning right now, which is something the Bulls haven't done since D Rose, which they're always like maintaining flexibility for free agency, but no one wants to go there. So you got to go out and you got to get. I mean, Vooch was in a small market. He's going to be more motivated now. You keep Zach LaVine happy just because you're getting players that want to win now. And they got Patrick Williams, who was maybe a bit of a reach on the draft, but he fit perfectly with those two guys as sort of like a playmaker and then great on the defensive end. And they still got Kobe White there, so it's going to be a lot of offense there. And Vooch isn't going to stop the centers you're going to run into, like the Embiids and stuff, but he'll get a little bit back on the offensive end.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all that. My question, I guess, and I'll just ask this now, because actually I'll save it for when we talk about the Bulls. There's a little hint to keep
Now,
to
now,
stay
now
to
I'm
keep
not gonna go to
on
sleep unless you
listening.
tell me.
No, you're good. It's a basic question, but I'm gonna
Okay.
make the people wait. So we're gonna move on to the losers of the trade deadline. Some people who either didn't make moves or didn't make the right moves. Jacob, who was your biggest loser of the trade deadline?
Um,
I
I
mean,
would
there's
say,
about 3 or 4 you could
yeah,
go with here.
I would say Lowry just because like it should be awkward, but it's not going to be awkward. He's completely fine with staying there, and he's going to stay there. And I can't say the Raptors are a loser as a whole because I like the Norm trade, and then also they didn't get what they wanted for Lowry. They kept him, so I think he's fine there. The Magic, however, I don't know how I really feel. I don't think they got enough for really,
Oh
uh,
man.
really anything. I feel like they lost every single deal they made, and just that as a whole was there.
Yeah.
So I'll go with the Magic, although someone better pick the Rockets here. But
Yeah.
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 So the Magic, I just feel like they didn't get it. Vooch is a two-time All-Star, very team-friendly contract, and they couldn't even get the picks unprotected. They're top 4 protected.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just weird thinking of it like that. And then didn't get a real. I mean, maybe they like Wendell Carter Jr. I mean, it's looking like that was the best deal out there. I mean, to get Wendell Carter Jr. I don't know what other young players are out there, but it's just hard to call them anything less than a loser when they lost all 3 trades they made, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so like, yeah, they lost all 3 trades, and they are banking on RJ Hampton becoming like a superstar. They're literally banking
Yeah.
on him and Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba leading this team somewhere, which
2.5 Hoopers, big Mo Bamba podcast though. We believe in him.
I
Play
loved
him
it
30
though.
minutes, see what
I
happens. See what
love
happens.
I love the Mo Bamba hype. I still love Mo Bamba. I mean, I hope he balls out, and then they're like, Wendell Carter Jr., we're gonna buy you out, and then he's just
Remember when they had the situation has before? They had Nikola Jokic and Yusuf Nurkic. They traded one. Now Jokic's MVP. They
yeah.
had Enes Kanter and Rudy Gobert. Traded Enes Kanter. Rudy Gobert, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. It's
Yeah.
Mo Bamba time. It really is.
I'm hoping you're right there. But yeah, I'll go with Houston. The only reason I am not picking Toronto is because of Houston's return for Oladipo. It was okay, so that's the only reason. If they got a better return, it's easily Toronto because I get Lowry's going to stay there, but is he going to stay there? Is he going to resign in the offseason?
He wants 22 at minimum, is the report. That was why no one wanted to trade for him because you get either a half-year rental and then he's gone of a 35-year-old, or you have to give him a 2-year contract and commit to him for 22 mil or more. So that was why the trade market was so low for him.
Well, but if I'm Masai, at least I get something. Like if I could have taken Duncan Robinson, Kelly Olynyk, and a draft pick, at least you're getting something in return.
Yeah.
Even if you mean because I don't think Lowry's going to resign. They have so much money issues. I don't think he's going to resign with Toronto. So he ended up getting nothing, and then he's just going to go on and walk. So that's my sense of why.
Would you have made those before we get to Rockets? Would you have made those 2 trades? Because there was KCP and Schroeder, THT was to hang up, and then it was Duncan Robinson and Olynyk and Tyler Heroes to hang up. Would you have made those like would you have traded Lowry for Schroeder and KCP straight up if you're Masai Ujiri?
Okay. If I'm Masai,
yeah,
I would.
You would have? Because that was the deal he didn't like. He was upset. He was like, "You lowballed me," and then
I would have because Schroeder and Lowry. So right now, Lowry is a better overall player, but
100%.
Schroeder is 27. He is very young. He wants to command. I think it's like 20 mil. He wants. So technically, he wants less than what Lowry's gonna get. He's younger, and I mean the defensive intensity. I say they are comparable. I do think Lowry's offensive game is a little bit better than Schroeder's, but they are very two equal players, and Schroeder's younger. Lowry, his game's only gonna weaken with his age, and I mean he's a short player. I don't know how much longer he's gonna be dominating this league. And I mean,
he'll always have that leadership ability, so he'll stay on as like kind of like a Jason Kidd, play late, but as far next contract he gets is going to lock you in to something you don't want to be locked into.
Exactly. And KCP, like, that's not the greatest guy. Like, I would have rather like Wes Matthews. I don't know. I mean, KCP, he's having an okay year, But I would have taken the Schroeder deal. Duncan Robinson, I think I would have taken that deal. I would have tried to get
I would
pressure.
have needed a pick. I would have needed a pick
I
with
would have needed to
Duncan
throw in a
Robinson.
pick, or you take out Olynyk and add in Precious.
Yeah.
That I would do, but I think Masai really did mess up here not dealing him, because Lowry's honestly going to walk and they're going to get nothing for him. Like, at least you would have gotten something. Now you're getting nothing.
It's the whole Kyle Lowry situation is just weird because like it was basically the swan song. Like he walked off, gave the deuces, and he was completely good with being traded. And now he just walks back in there. He's like, "All right, let's finish the season, I guess." And he's Kyle Lowry, so he's going to play hard. And they're going to try and make a surge to make the top 10 now, and they can't actually tank.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I guess I want to continue on this Raptors thing before I talk about the crappy Rockets. But like, I think Masai tricked him. Like, he messed up himself. He was like, I'm gonna deal all of these players first, and I'm gonna wait till the last minute, and Pat Riley's gonna bend to me. Like, Pat Riley doesn't bend to anyone. Rob Pelinka doesn't bend to anyone. And oh shit, what's his name in Philadelphia?
Daryl
Morey. He doesn't bend to anyone either. Like, he's like, yeah, they're gonna give me a last second offer I can't refuse. And I was watching the jump, and they're like, he has called him and wants final offers. And I heard that they all stayed the same. No one changed their final offer.
When it's such a busy trade deadline, because you saw, so Lakers doesn't fit the point about a mix because they did nothing. But maybe the best trade you make is the trade you don't. So they kind of pulled out there. Yep. So he had Daryl Morey and he had Pat Riley. And Pat Riley went, okay, I don't like your offer. Got Oladipo for pennies.
Mm-hmm.
Daryl Morey went, okay, I don't like your offer. Got George Hill, who is not as good as Kyle Lowry, but he's still a player in this league, a good veteran that can shoot the three.
Exactly.
So you can't let teams have plan Bs and then make us doing staring contests. So it doesn't work that way.
And he was like, I'm going to trade. Here go Norman Powell. You're out. He traded so many players, and then he's like, well, I have my spot for when I get 4 players for Lowry. Like, no, you're on an expiring contract. You're insane.
Yeah.
So I really think Masai, like, I give him so much credit as an owner. I think he really fucked up here.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm like, Masai, what you doing?
He never makes questionable moves. And I mean, we'll talk about the Norman Powell trade. But yeah, I was very confused by his strategy.
Because the offers they got weren't horrible. Like, you slide in Duncan Robinson with Freddie V, even you get Precious Achiuwa to kind of develop.
Yeah, even the 76ers offer, that was a good deal. That was a good deal. You offered, it was Matt Thibault and who's the other guy they offered? They offered
Danny Green had to be in there for contract, I would assume.
Yeah, Danny Green was in there, and then I think it was
Maxey.
Yeah, and yeah,
did they offer Maxey and Thibault?
I believe I saw a thing where they did offer both.
Yeah,
and then Danny Green to make the money work. Like, how do you what?
Like, what
do you want? What do you want? I want a 2nd round draft pick. Like, dude, come on, just make the trade. Yeah. But anyways, I'll talk about my real loser was the Houston Rockets, who traded Oladipo for basically nobody. And it really makes the Harden trade look even worse for them. Like, oh my God. Like, you guys went over what the trade technically is now, what they got.
Yeah.
And it is nothing. They got nothing.
And then George made the great point of, he actually did. I'm not even being sarcastic. They got 4 first rounders and 5 pick swaps. You're like, okay, 9 picks. They're not going to swap with Brooklyn though, because they're going to be so bad. Yep. So it's just tough. They really only got 4 first rounders and no players at all. And like, even on the surface level, you're like, you could dig one level deeper and go, they could have Jared Allen, Karis LeVert with the deal, but they wanted
they wanted to flip them. Yeah,
like Jared Allen and Christian Wood with Karis LeVert. That's a good core.
And then you still have John Wall there, who he's playing. He's having a good season. He's still.
You won't be able to trade him anyways because his contract. So just ride him out.
And I heard rumors that there's talk about him being bought out, but that kind of got shut down. Yeah. Well, yeah, they talked about it for like 2 minutes, and then they're like, not happening.
They figured he's got 4 years left.
Yeah. Well, that was the worst part, in my opinion, was you could have had Jared Allen, who is looking amazing in Cleveland, and Karis LeVert, who, luckily that trade happened and he's, recovered, and he had a great game last night. Him hit the dagger on him.
Big Pacers guys here. I'm excited. I was happy to get
Yeah,
Caris LeVert.
yeah. I mean, I don't think the pod knows, but we big Sabonis fans here
Oh
because
yeah.
he inspires white men to play basketball. And I said before,
He's just like he's not like a Caruso where like it's that supposed to, he's literally a white guy at the YMCA like
exactly. Yeah,
fundamentals 12 shots a game like it's
we'll
hilarious.
see him at the Simi Valley Summer League. We'll see him
Yeah.
there. We'll see him there. But anyways, and during the finals of the All-Star, the skills challenge, I texted Lehman. I was like, bro, Sabonis wins this because we both said Sabonis would win. I'm like, we got to get Sabonis jerseys. We got Sabonis jerseys. They come in. They on the way. We're gonna rock them.
They're gonna be right here next to my Penny
right.
Hardaway jersey.
Dude, that Penny jersey, nice.
Then we got LeBron back. Oh, yeah, we're flipped. Wait, okay. LeBron right there.
Yes,
That's
sir.
LeBron.
Yes, sir. But yeah. Houston lost this trade deadline because everything. So you kind of alluded to it. Sometimes the best move is not making a move. So I just want to, did you like the moves per se, even though they didn't make any moves? Did you like the moves the Lakers made by not making a move?
Well, I mean, I kind of have to because I'm wearing the Trez headband right now. Like,
You're growing on Trez. You're growing on Trez.
I was big on Trez when we signed him, and now I'm kind of seeing why the Clippers were so willing to sub him out for Serge Ibaka. He's going to get you buckets, but he's kind of tough to find a spot for him. But this whole Lakers season has been tough to put your finger on just because of the injuries. But I was not big on giving up that much for Kyle Lowry, and it wasn't even I'm a big THT guy because that's George. But like I thought he was good too. But I mean, he's not that much of an upgrade over Schroeder and Schroeder's been our third best player this year if you count AD and LeBron at the first two, and then KCP was our third best player in the finals last year. So I mean, shooters are going to shoot. They're going to go on cold streaks. Look at Danny Green, 8 for 12 last night, and everyone thought he can't shoot anymore. Shooters will shoot. And I mean, last year the Lakers I think were 28th before the bubble in 3-point shooting, and they won the finals off of 3-ball shooting and defense. So if we don't get a big man, if the Lakers don't get a big man, then I don't like their moves because I don't think this team can win a championship right now. I don't think it can make the finals right now without an actual big man. And I think Drummond would definitely fix that. I'm not a huge Drummond guy. I'd much rather have Hassan Whiteside, but he's still contractually with the Kings, so you can't really make a move with him. But yeah, I think this is a fine trade deadline doing nothing if they can get a big man through the buyout market, whether that's Andre Drummond or someone else.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they're really going to hardcore pursue Drummond. And then if they don't, they're going to look at, George texted us Gorgie Dang. He was one. And honestly, like, okay, he's a big. I'd be fine with that. He's not my number. I mean, I like it in the sense of if we make the finals and play the Nets, he causes issues for Brooklyn, which is really weird to say that he would cause issues, but he would. So I'd be okay with that. I think Drummond needs to be the Lakers' priority at the moment, though. Like
we got to make him feel like the belle of the ball when he comes in for this interview. Honestly, in and out the whole time, like give him the whole Cali experience.
I want to get your opinion because I think he should. Marc Gasol, he's had COVID issues and he was starting to look good, and then he got hit with COVID and he's old. I would move Gasol to the bench if we sign Drummond. I would move him to the bench and let Drummond start. Because I think that's how you get him in. You say you are starting center. You are right now our number one until LeBron and AD come back, and then the three of you can dominate.
That's the point exactly. He needs you. He's not going to listen. He's the starting center. He's not coming off the bench. And I think Gasol is was going to give us the JaVale McGee minutes that we got last year, where he plays he starts the first 6 minutes of each half, and he plays hard. He plays good. Marc Gasol's only needed for about 15 to 20 minutes if you get Drummond. So only reason I'm still big on Gasol is because we've seen him time and time again lock up these big men like Embiid, like he didn't guard Giannis 1v1, but the Raptors figured out Giannis. So his IQ is off the charts. So you got to keep Gasol around. But I think if Drummond comes, he's 100% move to the bench. Marc Gasol, that is.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we're real into this, but we love Lakers talk. But like for me, like it was Trez and AD and Gasol. They locked up Jokic in that first matchup of the season. The three of them gave him issues, and I don't know. Maybe it was just an off night for Jokic. But that, like, if they can stop Jokic, I believe they can stop. I believe they can stop Embiid. I mean, Trez is undersized, but the one thing I give him, and I think it's the spark plug the Clippers are going to be missing a lot,
Yeah,
is that energy, man. Like, he got Dwight ejected last night.
yeah.
He had 3 points at halftime, yet he was like our third best player on the court,
Yeah,
which is funny.
the one thing about Trez that people got right, as far as just like everyone we signed him, when you're on that back to back and no one wants to go play, you're on the road. You're in Cleveland on the road on a back to back. Trez is going to play. He's going to play 100%. And you don't get that out of a lot of players. And
Yep.
he's still a bucket. Somehow he only scores in the paint and he's 6'6", but he gets buckets and he's very efficient with that. So I think I'm glad he's staying around past the trade deadline. But we can't rely on him to do what the Clippers did last year, expect him to guard these big guys.
No. And that's why I think we have Gasol. That's why we're going to go after Drummond, that kind of thing.
Also, AD fixes everything. A healthy AD is a top 2 defender in the league. So
he was reevaluated today. And so basically all that was said was he's progressing. He can do more on-court stuff, and there'll be updates as he goes. I'm hoping, because the season ends in the middle of May, if we can get 5 to 7 games with Braun and AD back, I'm not worried about the playoffs.
I'm not worried about the playoffs. If they come back, the first game of the playoffs, that's missing all this time. I'm not worried unless it's a play-in game, because then anything can happen. I don't like that. So you really need to hope that the Lakers don't fall out of the top 6. Because I think they'd win the play-in, but it's just more. And maybe those are like warm-up games, honestly. I mean, because if you're a 7 or 8 seed, because I don't think the Lakers can fall out of the 9 seed. Hopefully not. But if you're the 7 or 8, you just got to win 1 out of 3. So that's kind of all that really. If you're 7 or 8, I think those teams will move on. But it's just very scary. Getting trapped there. Yeah. But I'm a big believer in LeBron said it in 2018. I don't care what seed LeBron is. He comes into your stadium, you're scared, and you're the underdog.
Yep.
So
for sure.
And anything top 6, I'm cool with.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Whoa, they're gonna like." I mean, we had our knucklehead that I send you messages said the Lakers are gonna fall to 10th by the end of the month, which I was like,
the month?
No, he said by the end of April. He said, end of April they'll be to the 10th seed in the West, and I'm like, dude, we played Cleveland and Orlando 4 times. That is, I mean, we're about to tip at the time we're recording. We're about to tip off against Cleveland, I believe. We should win that game. I don't know if Colin Sexton's playing. He's a game time decision.
He's ruled out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Win, guys. But yeah, the schedule, it's tough. So they have stretches of very tough games, and then there's some real easy ones in there. So I'm not too worried about them slipping too far, but it is something to worry about. I mean, to answer the original question, do the moves the Lakers made make sense? I am okay with them doing nothing. I did not like how vocal it was that Schroeder was involved in every trade, because now you got him.
How does that get out? I've always wondered.
I don't know.
Because nothing got out with the Bulls getting Vooch. It was made. Yeah, it was done deal. So things get out because you want them to get out. And I don't know.
I didn't like that, because remember when Schroeder got here, within a week on the Lakers, he said, I want to re-sign. We're talking contract extension. And now he's like, well, I'm going to wait till summer to make my decision. I'm like, fuck. We could have had him signed in February, done deal.
Yeah, well, the deadline's done now. Yeah, that's the signing deadline, I believe, unless they push that back as well as the trade deadline. It should have been somewhere in February.
Yeah, I don't think I think it already passed, but just the fact that now he's like, well, now I might test the market and may, see what happens. I'm like, you found a young, talented point guard, and how do you let that name get out? How? KCP, that's fine.
He's used to it. He's used to it.
I know. And it's a usual. The first game back he plays good. I'm sure he'll clank bricks in Cleveland tonight, but that's fine. That's KCP for you. But yeah, I just didn't like the fact that Schroeder's name got out, because I did not think that made him very happy. But hopefully he resigns, because I am a huge Schroeder fan. I've loved his intensity with the team. Yeah. But one LA team that did make moves was the LA Clippers. They brought back Mr. Playoff Rondo, but they got rid of Lou Will, who he gets to have his lemon pepper wings now 5 minutes away, which is good for him. But and he also contemplated retiring.
That's cold, yeah.
Dude, seriously, Well, okay, I thought of the trade. I was like, wait, Trae Young's got another guy to play with. Like, hey, that's kind of cool.
And
But
it's Lou Will's home.
I
Like
know.
he
I'm
should be
like, hey, that's
happy.
pretty cool. And he's like, I almost retired. And Trae Young's like, fuck. Like Trae Young's probably like, well, that's not what I want to hear. Hi, Lou.
Yeah.
Like, damn. But and I know you kind of talked about it, and I really liked what you said. Does Rondo improve the Clippers?
Just to start, so that way we just don't like Clipper slandering. Do you have a pessimistic or optimistic view on this trade here? Because I give it an A-, but I do have problems that could come ahead.
So I think the trade is an upgrade for them, but there are a lot of red flags that could easily happen here. A lot of them, and you
So
alluded to some of them. But yeah,
So I'll talk about it then. See, I give it an A-, and I'd be kind of a hypocrite. I know you might be our only listener on the podcast, but on the podcast, I begged. I was like, Clippers, go get a point guard. Whether it's George Hill, whether you find some way to, you're not gonna. And we know now you don't fleece Masai Ujiri. I was like, can you get Kyle Lowry maybe, please? And they got Rondo. And I was like, ooh, because I was scared of him going there in the offseason as a Laker fan, just because I thought they were one like point guard away. Because call Patrick Beverley what you want, a dog, all NBA defender. He's not a point guard. So they get Rajon Rondo, and for a very small price, just because Lou Will's time was kind of out already as soon as he got that lemon pepper nickname. Just being there, the whole bubble situation kind of soured his name as far as the front office.
Yep.
But
sure.
yeah, as far as focusing on Rondo, I think he'll help a lot. I hope they don't do too much. I hope they don't expect too much of him in the regular season, because that'll be a rude awakening. But he did play with Ty Lue. Ty Lue was his mentor in Boston. He kind of showed him the ropes there as a player, and that's kind of why Ty Lue was assistant there for Doc Rivers last year. So I think it could work. But the one thing with Rondo is that he'll shoot to you straight. And I don't know if a team with Paul George and Marcus Morris and these players can be shot straight.
Even Kawhi. I mean, you have to say it about Kawhi too. Him too.
And I mean it should, because like if they buy into Rondo knows what he's doing. Like Rondo, like it's all up here. He may quit sometimes, but it's all up here. So if they buy into Rondo, they can. But like Rondo's a very tough guy to figure out. If he doesn't respect you, he's gonna quit. He's gonna walk off. He's got his 2 rings. He's fine. He's got his bag now too. Yep. So I just worry, like they're down 2-1 in a series. He's not getting as many minutes as he wants. Paul George is being too ball dominant because Rondo wants the ball in his hand to dominate. So, and he just quits. So I hope they don't expect too much of him. And honestly, but to put a more optimistic spin on it, playoff Rondo's real. So if they put him in the right position to succeed, they're right there with the Lakers, right there. Yeah. I think the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Denver Nuggets are kind of tied for me right now. As far as the favorites coming out of the West, I have the Nets winning it all. And I think as far as that goes, pre-bout market, those three are tied right there just because the Rondo move.
Yeah. So yeah, so I do like the Rondo move from that sense. You have a point guard. I'm gonna give you a name who I thought I don't know if they could have made it work, but I really thought they should have pursued it more. Because I heard they didn't really do it at all. But I'll talk to you about that in a sec. So like I do like this move in a sense of you got a point guard. He is playoff Rondo is a real thing. He is an intense guy. He is a smart player. He knows what he's doing. He looks at the game 5 steps ahead. But that's my question is Rondo looks at so Rondo was happy to play with LeBron because the two of them look at basketball 5 steps ahead of what's happening. Mm-hmm. Does Paul George do that? And does no. Kawhi Leonard do that?
I think Kawhi Leonard does have a great basketball IQ.
I think Kawhi has a great basketball IQ defensively. He's still learning off. I think it's not up there offensively yet.
I think it all depends on coaching. Because like I brought up on our podcast, he's a tough guy to figure out. Because if he doesn't respect you, he's not going to listen to you. Look at the Pelicans. He had a playoff run there against the Blazers, but then he quit. And look at Rick Carlisle, great coach, quit on him. So if he doesn't respect you, he's not going to be there. But then Luke Walton tried to do the thing where like a report came out like Rondo's second day there, like they're at practice and he like told Rondo to shut up or something, and Rondo he quit there. So you can't be there's no tough love on Rondo. So it's all up to if Rondo really cares about this. And I was watching, I watched a lot of sports talk shows, and I was watching, a very underground one, Undisputed, Skip Bayless, and he tried saying that because one of my worries was he could have chose the Clippers in the offseason. He could have, but he chose the Hawks.
That was a worry of mine too. Yeah.
And Skip Bayless was saying, like, Skip Bayless, he was like, Jerry West said, get your bag and we'll come get you at the trade deadline. If that's so, I'm terrified of the Clippers because now I know Toronto wants to be there and all that stuff, and he's going to buy in. But yeah, he didn't choose the Clippers there. The Hawks also only got 2 second rounders for this player that's supposed to really change your culture. So it makes you think the Hawks really. I thought it was a win-win trade, but I mean, if Rondo's the player you think he is, why'd you only get 2 seconds for him?
Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, why didn't he choose him in the offseason? Why did he think Atlanta was that much better? Because I mean, and I don't know that because that Lakers Clippers rivalry got real like the last few years. I was worried about Trez on the Lakers like for a second, like how is this chemistry going to work? But it's LeBron and he makes it work. So I wasn't worried about Trez, but Rondo, I do worry a little bit. Like Marcus Morris has a big mouth as well. Like he might say something that Rondo takes the wrong way, and Rondo will just drop his bag right there and say like, "I'm retired."
Yeah,
or buy me out. He will do one of those things, like because he's Rondo.
He's quit on everyone.
Yeah,
except the Boston Celtics when they were winning. Then he quit on them. And then the Lakers because he wanted a bag, which was very, very understandable. Get your ring, go get your bag. So it scares me just because like he's so good if he buys in, but it's really going to be up to Ty Lue to figure out if he can get him to buy in.
I definitely agree. I think it can work. I'm also skeptical at the same time at this move.
Like I said, though, even as a Laker fan, A- for this one. You had to go get a point guard.
It was a great trade move, but sorry, I got a cat here. Oliver, get off. There you go. Okay.
Is he on your?
He's on the so I'm set up on a table with my background in the back, and he hopped on the table. So yeah. But yeah, I hope Rondo. I mean, I would fear him in the playoffs if we meet the Clippers, but hopefully at that point he hasn't bought in.
Yeah,
that's
if he's bought in, they're gonna run like a well-oiled machine because they're getting good Luke Kennard minutes now. Terrence Mann is a hooper. Terrence Mann will do all the intangibles. The Clippers are looking nice,
and it'll be can Paul George kind of step aside and be like, all right, let's go, Ron. Like if he can do that too, like if he can get a whole buy-in, but that's a big if, and we'll see what happens. But we're going to talk about the West. Denver and Portland both made some big moves. I have a little trivia question for you.
Oh boy!
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not too good at these.
I didn't even warn you about this one, but is
the answer Elgin Baylor? It's always Elgin Baylor.
Hey,
R.I.P. Elgin Baylor. But
yes,
every time you ask me a question, it's an Elgin Baylor.
No, this isn't. So yesterday, every single Gary in the NBA was traded.
Okay.
Can you name? There are 3.
Okay.
Also, this is going to be my daily sports question tomorrow. So if you're listening, you'll know the answer.
Well, I think I can.
Can you name the 3 Garys that were traded at the deadline?
It's Gary Harris Jr.
Yep.
Gary Trent Jr. Or I don't even think Gary Harris is a junior. I don't know why I said
Gary
that.
Harris. Yeah.
Yeah, Gary Harris, Gary Trent Jr. And
this is the stumper.
Yeah.
This is the stumper.
Because I saw this stat too, but I was like, I need to know the actual names because it was every Gary, which was hilarious.
They're the only 3 Garys in the NBA right now.
What happened to Mitch McGarry from the Thunder? You remember him?
But his last name's McGarry.
Oh man. Give me 5 more seconds and tell me. Okay.
What
team was he even on?
Orlando. Orlando.
Nope. I don't know.
You don't know? Are you sure?
Did he get traded to Orlando, or did he come from Orlando?
He was on Orlando.
Well, so it was Vooch and Al-Farouq Aminu, and it was Aaron. So he's on the Nuggets now. So he was traded for a Gary. Oh my gosh.
That makes it better. He was.
Yeah, I'm getting upset. Just tell me.
Gary Clark.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
I was so close. There's 2 gimmies there, and then.
Okay, so I have a crazier stat for you. So yeah,
is it the Gary Trent Jr.?
Damn you. Well,
tell the audience.
Well, okay. So Gary Trent Jr. was traded to the Toronto Raptors yesterday. Gary Trent Sr., during his 41st game of his 3rd NBA season, was traded to the Toronto Raptors. He was on Portland and traded to Toronto. Gary Trent Jr., 41st game in his third season, traded from Portland to Toronto. That is the most insane thing
Life's
ever.
a circle, or whatever the hell the saying is.
That is insane. But anyway, so I'm eluding. We're going to talk some Portland stuff. So Portland made a move. They get Norman Powell. Denver made a few moves. They get JaVale McGee. And they add in Aaron Gordon for basically nothing unless RJ Hampton becomes a star. But I'm skeptical about that. But whatever.
His best days may have been on Ball's life. I don't know if they're ahead of him. So I sure hope they are. But
yeah. But anyways, who finishes? So currently, I'll give you the records and the place because Denver is behind Portland in the standings. Mm-hmm. So currently, the NBA standings look like this in the West. They have the same record.
Oh, okay.
Both 27 and 18. Denver holds the 5. Portland holds the 6. Lakers are the 4 seed at the moment. Anyways, who finishes the year with the better record, Denver or Portland?
I honestly think this is kind of easy. It's Denver, 100%. They addressed the needs they needed, which was, I don't remember who their backup center was first half of the season. And they went and got JaVale McGee, a great backup center. Yeah. And then they get Aaron Gordon. We already alluded to all the moves the Nuggets made. As far as Portland goes, I wasn't a huge fan of them getting Norman Powell. I think he's an upgrade. I think he's a bucket. But they're going to have to pay him next year. And they gave up Gary Trent Jr., who I kind of liked. And Norman Powell, I was like a few years ago or like a year ago or so, I was a casual in some sense. I was like, Norman Powell's a 3-and-D player. I'm watching this guy. He cannot play defense, and he never will. Norman Powell does not play defense. So Robert Covington is looking at Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on the side and going, how am I going to guard both these guys? Because now the starting lineup has 3 players who don't play perimeter defense: Rocco, who's an All-NBA defender, and then Enes Kanter. So it's going to be very tough to play defense for them. I think they won the trade. Norman Powell's a bucket. He'll give you 20. Yeah. He'll give any team he plays for 20 points for the next probably 8 years. He's a bucket. But they didn't need more scoring. They got CJ and Dame Lillard. So I didn't like what they addressed.
And their bench doesn't have any defense. You have fucking Carmelo Anthony on the court. That means
bucket. So they just got another player that's just like Portland.
Yeah, I mean I'm gonna ask you a question in a second, but so I'm with you. Denver, I think they finished better. They are overall better than Portland. And
Jokic for MVP. It's looking almost locked up right now if he can stay healthy.
I'm looking at Jokic. I'm also still looking at Dame. I want to see more, but Dame is really on my radar, and I think he should deserve some votes with all the injuries that have happened and everything. But yeah, Denver's going to finish with a better record. I thought Portland had a few games on them, but I guess Denver caught those up.
Denver's been on a roll.
Yeah, so yeah, Denver's looking really good. So alluding to Portland, seeing all this offense and no defense, is Portland a poor man's version of the Brooklyn Nets?
I think that'd be an insult to the Nets, to be honest. They, 1, get timely stops, and 2, I believe they're middle of the pack now in defense. Okay. So, and they also have, guys like, Bruce Brown. They have DeAndre Jordan, who still is good on defense. And then they got Nick Claxton, looks like Playboy Cardi, but he plays like, David Robinson for 20 minutes a night. Like, Nick Claxton is great on defense. So, I mean, I just don't think they have the versatility on defense the Nets do as well. Plus, I mean, Kyrie doesn't have the physical stature to play defense. James Harden just didn't play defense. Now he's actually, kind of buying in. I'm sure come playoff time, if he's not too winded from carrying this team with the injuries, he'll also buy in on defense. And KD is a tremendous defender as well. Yeah. So I think it's honestly an insult to the Nets if we call Portland a poor man's Nets.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think their defense has improved. And it's not like a big worry, but I am worried about when you play Joel Embiid and the 76ers, because DeAndre Jordan is not going to stop Embiid whatsoever. So I think, I don't know what they do. I don't know how they fit the buyout market. I don't think Drummond solves their issues. He's not even meeting with them, which I find.
I never liked Drummond with the Nets anyways. I like what they're going with now as far as versatility on defense with Nick Claxton and DeAndre Jordan. Yeah, covering the pick and roll.
Yeah, and do you see them going after Aldridge or someone else? Because I think they need to find someone to at least who can do something to Embiid.
I really don't. I think it's a very forward way of thinking you need to get a guy big like Joel Embiid to guard Joel Embiid. The Sixers offense is very interesting because they put Joel Embiid on the perimeter sometimes too, so that Ben Simmons can get going. So I'm scared of the Sixers for sure. I think they're very, very close to the Nets. But I think the Nets right now are my title favorites if they make no moves.
Okay.
I think Drummond would kind of hold them down. He
Yeah.
command more minutes. Drummond hasn't proven he can really be, on a winning team, and that's why even for my Lakers, like it's a desperation move because we let go of Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee. We need a big man like that. So I don't like Drummond that much, but I think more desperate teams are going to get him that need him. Nets, it's all about getting healthy.
It's about getting healthy, but I mean, I do have concerns when you play a versatile big, what you're going to do. It's the same worry I have with the Jazz because Rudy Gobert can't guard a versatile big. I mean, it's facts. He can't guard a big that can shoot, a big that likes to step on the perimeter, which is the same worry I have with Brooklyn. With a few teams in the East, I think they could run into some trouble. And so getting back to Portland, though, Norman Powell, great shooter, but you already have Damon CJ. And like Gary Trent went on streaks, but he's still a young guy and he played defense. He played good defense. Like I think this is one of the reasons why I did not put Toronto as the loser, because I think they got a really good player and they got rid of a great player, but they weren't going to pay him anyways.
So they got the best player in the deal. The Blazers did, Norm Powell.
Yep.
But the Raptors essentially got Norm Powell on the rookie deal. They get to evaluate Gary Trent, see what he's going to do. And maybe he can, because Norm Powell wasn't a tremendous scorer like this when they were making that finals run. He kind of grew into his own. He's a late bloomer. I think with Gary Trent, the potential's there, and they get him on that rookie deal. I think the last thing Portland needs to be doing is getting players they need to pay in the offseason, just because their cap space is very, very limited. They're over the luxury tax, I believe, by $20 million. They have one of the highest payrolls in the NBA, and all they have to show for it is maybe an occasional conference finals run.
Jeez, so I guess they're not a poor man's Nets. I have worries about both teams in the playoffs because I stick to this philosophy, and this is why I still don't have the Nets as my favorites. Offense wins you games, but defense will win you championships.
But I believe the Nets are good on defense. I really do. Sometimes they run out of 5-man unit, they switch everything, and they timely stops.
Their defense is improving, but playoff time is a different time for defense. And James Harden, we know what he does in the playoffs. What he does in the playoffs. So I still have my worries about him, but I guess they're not a poor man's Nets, but they are essentially a worse defense Nets, basically.
Portland's still a tough out in the first round for sure, no matter who they play. Yeah, but I don't think they got any better making that move, and I think they really strapped themselves with a hard cap making that move.
Yeah, well, Pat Riley showed why he is one of the better GMs and has always been one of the best GMs, because he said, no, I'm not overpaying for Kyle Lowry. I'll pay pennies on the dollar for Victor Oladipo, who I would have loved to see in the purple and gold, but I'm happy he's in Miami. Oladipo has had his injury issues and he's had his struggles with Houston. Do you think Jimmy Butler can inspire Oladipo to just embrace this Heat culture and how the Heat play basketball?
I think yes, for two reasons. One, he was rumored to go there in the offseason next year because his contract's up. Excuse me. So I really think he'll really buy in there because he wanted to be there. So he's happy to be there. And then two, we haven't had a lot of we know the Heat culture is tough. It's you work every day, you work hard on the person next to you. And Jimmy kind of leads that. But we haven't seen anyone really fall out of the Heat culture. Really get go there and then be oh no, get me out of here. I can't handle it. So I think they're a very embracing culture. It's Miami, so you love to live there. And I think Oladipo will fit there very nicely. As far as the Heat culture, it's kind of a vague term. It just means they play hard and they're good. But I really think Victor Oladipo can buy into that almost strictly because he did want to go there.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, who cares? They traded Kelly Olynyk for him. So
Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and who else? Was there another name?
It was a pick swap, which they're not going to do because the Rockets are going to be better. So are you going to be worse?
Yeah. I think he will. I agree with all those reasons. How he was rumored to go there, he wanted to be there. And this Heat culture, it's a legit thing. Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero year one were
Hmm.
like 4 a.m. putting up buckets with Jimmy Butler. Like
Yeah.
it's a real thing, and Jimmy Butler's like he was the perfect lead after D Wade.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't think of another player to go to my. I mean, okay, I guess like LeBron, but
He already
like
did that though, so
yeah, but like would Giannis embrace this tough? I don't know if Giannis would embrace that necessarily. I don't think Embiid would have.
the one
Jokic,
thing, he don't take days off. Almost every superstar
yep,
nowadays takes days off, and
yep,
hopefully that's one thing. I mean, I just thought of that now. Oladipo does rest games, and I
yeah,
think they'll be okay with that as long as it shows up playoff time. But I mean, that whole I'm not going to practice day; it's a rest day
mm-hmm.
doesn't fit with
Nope.
Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat.
Yeah, no, that's not, and yeah, that's not the way they play basketball. That's not their motto. But Jimmy Butler's the perfect star to be there to embrace that. Like he's the
Mhm.
perfect fit for Miami. I think Oladipo is also going to fill in the Jay Crowder void that is a lot bigger than people thought it'd be. Like
Yeah, yeah.
everyone's like, oh, he went to Phoenix. Like, oh, he's gonna be fine. Like they did not realize how A, automatic from three he was, and B, his defense was. I mean, he was
Well,
one of those guys that stopped Giannis. It was him, Butler, and Bam were just stopping Giannis.
they really tried to do that in the offseason with Avery Bradley, most notably Mo Harkless, because
Yeah,
he was that stretch four, 3-and-D, and they still had Iggy. So you're like, okay, they'll be there. Mo Harkless was not good, and Avery Bradley did not play. So they really needed someone to come in here, and if Oladipo's gonna return to the form he was in Indiana, he was going to Game 7 with LeBron.
yeah,
This is the place to do it because they'll work him hard, and if he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it.
yeah, yeah. And if he doesn't, and exactly, you're gonna find out this half season instead of giving him a nice contract. If he
Mhm.
doesn't embrace it or he doesn't play well, you're gonna say, hey, go find somewhere to play. We enjoyed it, but you're not for the Heat. You know,
That's a great point. Yeah, because they paid
yeah,
a very minimum price. They saw with bigger scale. Carmelo Anthony of the Knicks, they traded him
mhm,
midseason when they could have just signed him, in the offseason.
yep,
But they didn't give up any pieces like the Knicks did then. So you really get to give Victor Oladipo this it's kind of
yeah,
like in the NFL when they bench Fitzmagic for Tua to see if they get a head
yeah.
start there. It was really just looking forward to next year.
Yeah, for sure. So I love this move by Miami. I really hope it works out. Yeah, I mean, I love Victor Oladipo. Like he's had some tough breaks, tough injuries. Then you end up in Houston where it's just like depression central there with Boogie and well, there was Boogie and John Wall and injured Christian Wood. Like and so I hope Miami, I hope it works out because I'm a big Oladipo fan. Uh,
Yeah, who isn't? I mean,
yeah,
after those Indiana runs, yeah.
yeah. So the Boston Celtics, and I am going to be as unbiased as possible here. Like George is a huge Celtics hater and Danny Age hater, and
I
I
put him
give
on the wagon, and then he just won't get off now,
well,
no
okay.
matter what happens.
So I give the Celtics slander, but I will respect a good move when I see one. I think they made an interesting move, and then they made a really bad move, in my opinion.
Talk to me then.
So Evan Fournier, I like the move. He's a guy that will get you buckets. He's a clutch shooter for you at the end of games. But he has, and you alluded to it with Andre Drummond, he hasn't won anywhere. Like I don't know what Evan Fournier playoff basketball looks like.
Well, he's basically a role player, though. Like you're not counting on
No,
big minutes from Evan Fournier if you're a top four contender in the East.
no, I'm not looking at big, but I'm looking at, is he going to come off the bench and hit big shots for me while I get Tatum a few minutes of extra rest? Like, can I sit Tatum for an extra 2 to 3 minutes and and this game will not get out of hand with him off the court? So I want to see how I just haven't seen him in the playoffs, I guess.
Okay. Well,
But
I'm a big Fournier guy, so
yeah.
I'll talk more about it after you finish up your thought.
No, so I like the Fournier move. I think it was a good move. I will agree with George in the fact that they needed a big. Mo Wagner is not a big. We saw him on the Lakers. That dude played perimeter with the Lakers, and he played perimeter with Washington, and he's probably going to do it with Boston. Even Brad Stevens will say, "Go to the middle," and he'll go I go out here, and then I go there. Like I don't go there. I come out
Yeah.
here, then I go in the paint. So I think it's a real issue. I think Danny Age is booking on Drummond coming, hardcore, like he thinks he's getting Drummond. But I really thought that there were bigs. Like, How do you not top Chicago's deal for him? How do you not top that?
Well, we were talking about this in the group chat as we
Yeah.
do, and I mean, like I said, I kind of started the Danny Ainge hate train. It was on draft night. I was like, he's not a top 5 GM, and then we went through him, and we were like, he's got a lot of misses.
Hmm.
But I'm really gonna side with him here because for the Vooch deal, it seems like the Magic were really into Wendell Carter Jr. or at least getting a prospect like that, and the Bulls did throw in 2 firsts. And like I said,
Yeah.
the Magic are a loser of the deadline for me, but they got 2 firsts. They're top 4 protected for some reason, and then Otto Porter Jr., who I mean, maybe you'll either buy him out or you're probably going to buy him out. Yeah, Otto Porter Jr. doesn't matter. It's just for the money. But you get Wendell Carter Jr. and 2 firsts. I don't know if the Boston Celtics could top that move without throwing in 3 firsts. Because
Hmm.
unless you're going to throw in Marcus Smart, who I was very against, I'm big on Marcus Smart staying in Boston. I mean, it'd have to be 3 firsts, and then either one of the Williams guys. So I honestly don't know if that's. I mean, we're saying the same thing about Evan Fournier. I think him and Vucevic won the same amount of playoff games because
Yeah.
they've been together for so long. So I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like you need to afford the same kind of luxury to Evan Fournier as you are to Nikola Vucevic.
No, yeah,
Because
fair enough. And I have my questions about Vooch. I have
Mhm.
those questions about him too. But no, so that was all I was saying is like I haven't seen him in the playoffs. Like I don't know what he does there.
Yeah.
So that's my only worry is like their big move. Like I don't know. Like it'll help, but
Mhm.
it's not what they needed. And now they're really hardcore relying on really one player to sign with them. And if they don't get him, like they ran out Taco Fall tonight against Giannis. He got
Yeah.
dunked on. Like I love Taco Fall. I love me some Taco Fall, but like dude is
Yeah.
doesn't play for a reason. So
So about it's growing me more every single day the Fournier move just because I was like, oh well, for one they got him for 2 seconders and averaging 20 points. Like dude's a
oh yeah,
bucket. He'll stretch from everything. But I was
they
still
gave up
like,
nothing.
the Danny Ainge hater me was like, you got to give props to someone who gets Evan Fournier for 2 second rounders, but they didn't need him. But they need bench depth, and he's gonna do great for that. He's gonna be a great 6 man for them. And then I'm completely content with them not being able. I mean, the Bulls' offer was bad, but I think the Celtics have to throw in a lot more picks just because they have a lot less
Mm.
tradable players and young assets than the Bulls.
Okay.
But where we agree, they need a center now desperately.
They can't win they can't come out of the East. Like I don't think they can like if they got a real big, they might be able to contend with the Nets because their offensive firepower with Tatum and Brown, and if Walker can show up in the playoffs, and then you have Fournier, like the offense is right there with Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But if they get that big, it might put them. It puts them over the top.
I disagree with that, but I do think they need a big to even get out of the first round.
Ooh.
I find it odd that you put so much stock into like Drummond and then hate on Rudy Gobert. Because he's even less mobile than Rudy Gobert. Like that dude can't guard a parked car like Kyrie Irving would say. He gobbles boards and he's a good rim protector. But like if you see like a Ben Simmons and Embiid pick and roll, curtains,
Yeah.
good night. And that's one thing I feel like the Nets can guard. So that's why I'm so high on the Nets.
Okay.
But
I haven't seen Drummond this year. Like he
Mhm.
hasn't played in a while, so I guess it's just more Rudy Gobert's been exposed more than Drummond, I guess,
Mhm.
and that might be where it comes from. I guess yeah, that's
That's what
probably
I
where
mean
that
as
comes
far as
from.
like Drummond's gonna sound with a desperate team because like Drummond won't put the Celtics over the top, but like they need a big man just to contend as far as like in the East.
Yeah,
And then same with Lakers. Like I'm not a big Drummond guy. They need a big man though. So like that's
yeah,
why I feel like he's in such high demand.
yeah. Well, and then one thing Drummond does, I guess, for the Lakers is they when they throw out that second tier lineup where you don't right now with Montrezl Harrell, they give up so many offensive rebounds. The Lakers
Mhm.
get and so Drummond, that's a quick solve because then you have Gasol coming off the bench and he can get you rebounds. So
Yeah.
I guess that's where my stock in Drummond is high. Is he just that he eliminates that issue
Mhm.
altogether? But yeah, Boston needs to get a big. I don't. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, like that'd be like okay, but you need
It's
a
kind of just like
center.
a better version of Daniel Tice, just very
Yeah,
offensive oriented.
and I did not like the Daniel Tice trade at all. Like I know he
I feel
wasn't
like
doing
he
much
needed to
there.
get out. Like I feel like there was some bridge burned just because he was in so many trade talks. Maybe he was upset and they decided to get him out of there. Because I don't think there's a world where Danny Ainge thinks Mo Wagner's a better player than Daniel Tice. There's no way. Like there can be.
Yeah, Daniel Tice, he does. I have watched Boston games this year. I haven't seen him do it as much, but he did it a hell of a lot last year, and he did it against the Lakers, and it was an issue when he sets this like in the
illegal screens.
Yeah, they were illegal, but they were like in the paint and not getting called, and it was just freebie layups, and like I didn't see him get called for that once. Like, I don't know how the hell that man got away with that.
Even Doris Burke was freaking out about it. She was like, "This is good. This is the stuff you got to do to win championships." Like,
dude, I'm sitting there watching. I go, that is illegal in every play of the book, and I was like, and he's doing it every play, like so.
And it was working like a charm. It was so good. It
was, and so like, yeah, the Mo Wagner trade, I did not agree with really. You get younger, but you don't really improve. I don't know. Hey, maybe Mo will go crazy in Boston. I don't see him doing it. I mean,
Danny should flip him next trade deadline for a first, and we'll see what happens.
Oh, Danny.
Good deadline for Danny. Good deadline.
Yeah, it was. I like Evan Fournier. You switched me on that one. I'm more bought into Fournier now.
Yeah, 2 seconds for a bucket.
Oh, the trade was phenomenal. That was a great trade for Boston. But the Bulls won the deadline, like I said. They got Vooch, then they got Daniel Tice.
Big Daniel Tice podcast here, the J Sports.
Dude, I know, seriously. But so I guess the Bulls are going all in because the East is weak, and I mean we all have them really making the playoffs. But I just want to, and you can, just do it all at once. But like, what do they do with Markkanen now? Like, where does he stand in the rotation?
So as far as the Bulls, 100% want it. Really like the trade. You're swapping. I mean, Vooch is better than Wendell Carter Jr., so you feel that need. Otto Porter Jr. was really, I thought it was going to be a buyout candidate. It turned it into a trade chip, so good for AK there on the guy running the Bulls. Good for him. Yeah. But like I said, the picks are protected too. So I mean, A plus trade just to show Zach LaVine you're all in. Yeah. As far as Markkanen goes, I feel like they can run out now that they got Vooch there, because what Thad Young was doing was kind of running the center position from the high post, and he was great at passing and stuff. Now they got Vooch to do that. So Markkanen can kind of step into that role. He's used to the stretch four, and they can ask less of him. And now they can go 5 out because they got Zach LaVine, a great 3-point shooter, Kobe White, a great 3-point shooter, Markkanen, most of the time a good 3-point shooter, and then Vooch, who shoots 40% off pick and pops. So they got everyone who can shoot good, and then Patrick Williams in the starting lineup there to give them some defense and ball handling. I think their team is actually pretty cut and dry now. I think they got their starting 5. They got Tomas Satoransky backing up as a point guard. He'll run that pick and roll with Vooch to perfection. I think Markkanen things are looking up for him.
Yeah, and then it'll be Tyson Thad Young off the bench.
Yeah.
And that's not bad. I mean, Daniel Tice off the bench. That's a good backup center.
And Thad Young, I don't know how they. I don't know. I know how they did. I'm glad they kept him, because if they're going to make this playoff push, he's playing great basketball for him. Thad Young's playing great for him.
The Lakers side of me wanted the Bulls to suck and us try and get that. I told you back like at the beginning of the year, Thad Young's underrated. The Lakers need him, and I'm like, and the Bulls are playing good. I'm like, they're not going to trade him. He's staying. And like he's been so underrated for that team this year.
Billy Donovan really knows how to use him, and it's a beauty to watch him work.
He does everything well on the court. And he doesn't shoot too much, and when he does shoot, it almost goes in all the time. Basically,
that's what everyone kept doing wrong with that Young. They're like, go sit in the corner, give us 15 points off of like corner threes and like offensive rebounding. I'm like, no, he's great. He's a great passer for position. He's almost like a point forward at that. He's got a decent handle. So let him kind of like run the high post. Now they got Vooch for that, so they can keep that. That's why Vooch fits so good into their offense, just because he could take that Thad Young position. Obviously, Vooch was better than Thad Young.
Yeah, I agree on all points, but Bulls all in. I'm excited to see what they do, because frankly, the Bulls haven't been good in a while. Sorry, Costa, but I'm excited to see what they do, man. I'm excited. But so one thing I forgot to bring up when talking about the Clippers, and I really do want to talk about it real quick, is because I said there was a point guard that they didn't seem to go after. They were hearing names and listening to offers why didn't they? Was it asset wise? Was it they didn't have the draft capital? Why didn't they go after Malcolm Brogdon on the Pacers?
I think there's a reason we didn't hear anything about Brogdon after that initial report that him and Sabonis were on the block. And I think that's because the Pacers either they changed their mind or they were just like, well, because like I said, everything gets out for a reason. So when they said Brogdon and Sabonis on the table, I think they just want to see what offers they get back. And I'm pretty sure they were lowballed to all hell when that happened because Brogdon and Sabonis are worth much more to the Pacers than to another team. So I think it was mostly an assets thing because I mean I feel like Brogdon would probably command as much or if more than the Kyle Lowry trade, just because he's younger, not a more team friendly deal. So I think it's definitely an assets thing. Because look at they only had 2 second rounders to get for Rajon Rondo. Like all their first rounders are gone, and they got no real tradable pieces because they got Marcus Morris and Luke Kennard making $16 million a year. You can't trade those contracts.
I think it was an assets thing for the Clippers, and unfortunately, that Paul George trade is gonna look really bad for a while. I think with everything they gave up.
Yeah.
But I mean, what I've heard is basically Kawhi put him in a corner and said, "I'm gonna either stay or go to the other LA team unless you get me a second superstar. Mm-hmm. You have like 2 days to make this."
That's why it happened. Like bang bang, Kawhi signed, Paul George is there.
Exactly, because he basically started off his Clippers career giving him an ultimatum, which like, I mean, we both love The Office. Like that's no way to go about it. We know that there's no way to go about it.
Yeah, I mean, and like it's looking worse and worse every day when like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is almost as good as Paul George right now. And he would fit that because he'd be a floor general. I know that Chris Paul year did wonders for him, and that's why he's so good now. But he's looking like that floor general the Clippers so desperately need. And they could have had these picks to, every player that's in the market, who doesn't want to go play with a rising star in Shai and Kawhi? They could have traded him for, everyone there. So it was tough. It's tough looking back on it.
I mean, next year we might be talking about Shai being better than Paul George. Like, in all honesty, like it could be a thing.
And like, can you imagine if Kawhi declines the player option, leaves this offseason, and like the Clippers got no picks?
Exactly. They have until like 2027, I think is the year. So
I think it's probably 2025 because it was made 2 years ago. They traded almost every first rounder in swaps.
Oh, okay. So 2020. Okay. But yeah. So I think if the Clippers could have made, I hope they were one of the teams that threw out an offer. But, like, I understand from the Pacers standpoint, let's just hear what it is, and if it's low, we're going to stop. Like, the first offer is always going to be low. Like, I'm sure Lowry's first offer was, like, Schroeder and a second-round pick. Like, I'm sure that was the Lakers' initial offer, was, like, KCP and Wesley. Like, the first one is always a low-ball deal. Mm-hmm. So, like, I would have listened a little bit longer on it, but I mean, could you imagine if they somehow got him on that with him and Kawhi and Paul George? That could work, I think.
Yeah, I got a rude awakening to the world because I went to go look at a car the other last weekend, and it was listed for 55. And I told him $4,000. He told me to kick rocks. Wouldn't let me give a second offer. So you can't lowball too much. But getting back to as far as like, I just don't think they had a chance to get Brogdon. Okay. I love the Clipper hate just because they're the little brother of the Lakers, but there's no way they had anything to offer for Brogdon. No way.
Yeah, I mean, it probably revolved around Lou Williams.
Probably Terrence Mann as, a raw prospect.
Terrence Mann as a young guy. Luke Kennard probably. And the Pacers were like, we laugh at you. Haha.
They don't have a lot of tradable pieces just because, they got the stars Kawhi and PG who are not trading. And then also they got Luke Kennard and Marcus Morris who are just on bad contracts. So like the Clippers are strapped as far as like making moves.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to just throw that out there to see, why didn't they? And it was basically because they gave up too much for Paul George.
Would have been clear favors they got Brogdon. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, you would have had to throw in like, and it wouldn't, I don't even know if the Pacers would run. You have to throw in like Surge. Like you'd have to throw in someone like that probably.
And it wouldn't even make sense because the Pacers trading Brogdon, they're not looking at this season. And even though Surge would fit with that team, like.
No, he wouldn't because him and Sabonis are the same height and play the same position. But Sabonis is elite. We all know that.
Oh man, Sabonis. I love that guy.
Yes, we do. But that's
like his dad, Arvidas.
That's all we really got for the trade deadline today, guys. So, Jacob, let me know where my listeners can find, your podcast, your social medias, and, your personal accounts.
Well, no personal accounts there. No shout outs there. I'm focused on the business grind.
Oh, wow.
But
What a guy.
you can find us at TH Hoopers on Instagram and Twitter. Pretty. I don't know how we got that handle, but at TH Hoopers, pretty clean. I like that. And then we upload every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Recapping the games and everything, because not everyone can watch every game. So we have no lifers watching for you, and then we talk about them. So that's kind of the rundown.
They wrap up every game. So yeah, go check out 2.5 Hoopers, and you can find me J_sports_podcast. And until next time, this has been Joshua Nokowski of the J Sports Podcast. Peace.